And here we go again. This time on Thursday, we have Thomas Patrick Gormley with us tonight. We were just comparing notes before we started, and man, he's got a bunch of interesting friends that many of us have followed for years on television. Lala and I are very excited to have you here. And very, very thank you very much for coming in on our show and honoring us with your presence.
I'm very honored to be on the show. You guys are awesome. I remember Lala telling me your background, Bob, very similar to mine in a way, with the law enforcement type of background, and that's always makes it interesting. I always got to help a brother out, and of course, Lala has always got that nice smile when I see her on Facebook, so that's always awesome. And
is well, that beautiful face, and so
Yep.
my mother's family.
Yep.
8 generations of law enforcement. I mean, just forever. And then I went to the intelligence community, did things a little bit differently. Okay, look, introduce yourselves to our listeners and tell us how you got into the paranormal and the other stuff at an early age, or whenever you did, and how it's evolved.
Yeah, just really, Thomas Patrick Gormley. I've been known for years as the archangel of the paranormal. Things have grown from there. I'm to the point where I have enough titles and names to be a character on Game of Thrones. So, breaker of chains, all that other stuff. But no, I am one of the principal co-founders of Wardruna, which is a healing society, has a shaman. Also, the Warren Society. I'm one of the members of the Warren Society on the council with them, one of the 5 council members, and also with the Holy Sword Apostolate. So there's a lot of, people that have been in the paranormal for a long time that are part of these groups, like myself, Stacia Wills. We have Father Bob Bailey, Father Ken Torres. We also have Joe Frankie. That's our council of 5 through the 3 groups. We all work together with cases. If somebody in the case needs healing or psychiatric help, we have Wardruna. We could work them through our system with that, with medical professionals. And the Holy Sword Apostolate, of course, for prayer, deliverance, and to the point where exorcisms could be performed also if that's needed. Very rare, but it is there if needed. And we all work together as a unit, and it's pretty intense. There's cases that we have that get really intense to the point where we're dealing with everything from little things all the way up to jinns. So we've had a case with jinns recently, which was pretty amazing.
You're the first person I know that has one of those stories. I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one. But I started in the paranormal over 40 years ago. Me being the teenager I was, you think you're going through teenage angst, but I would feel changes of energy where I'd be sad, I'd be happy, I'd be mad, and didn't know why. I just thought maybe I'm having a psychological breakdown as a teenager as you go through adolescence. But it was my whole life, and it really came about at that time. And just I had some friends. It was like Halloween time. Say, hey, let's go see these guys talk, And we went to a Central Connecticut University in New Britain, Connecticut. I live in Connecticut, and got to see Ed and Lorraine Warren speak. And after they were done, they do a meet and greet. And I went back for the meet and greet, and Lorraine Warren pinpointed in on me, skipped everybody, came right up to me and says, honey, you've been having issues. So anybody that knows the Warrens know that Lorraine calls everybody honey, and Ed used to call everybody kid. So, and those are like their forms of endearment. 2 of the greatest people I've ever known. I know a lot of people say different things, but put the paranormal aside, that's like another grandma and grandpa to me. And it's crazy because Joe Frankie and I were talking the other day that we work together very closely, and we realized that him and I met the Warrens at the same time. He was a little bit older than me, a couple of years, and we realized that at the time we met Ed and Lorraine back in the mid-'80s, they were the same age as Joe and I are now. So it's come full circle for us. And now we're at the point where we want to teach the up and coming generation what we learned, the building blocks, and the things we learned to build on top of what Ed and Lorraine did, and just what we've learned, myself as a shaman, an investigator, a demonologist, a parapsychologist, all the titles that I've worked hard to, bring stuff to the table with to help people. And I think at this point, with our three pillars, with the Wardruna, with the Warren Society, and the Holy Sword Apostolate, it just shows when people from different walks of life, we have Catholic priest, Orthodox priest, somebody that worked 30 years with the Warrens closely, a shaman, another shaman. You think about it. What if you had two shamans and two priests walk into your house to help you? I think you'd probably feel a little bit more at ease if you were going through a paranormal problem. And that's what happens. We consult people over the phone. And I tell people all the time the work we've done, it's due diligence. We have people that work on history for us. We background check everything and pinpoint in what needs to be done, whether it be referred to a psychologist or anything like that, any type of healing, or if there is a paranormal issue going on, we'll fly anywhere, to help a family. And what we do is when we do a lot of these events and we advertise like this, that's the revenue that we get to be able to fly to places and help these people that are having issues. Because with the investigation, we don't charge for it, because Ed and Lorraine never charged. There are costs. Lorraine would write books and make their appearances, and all that money went into them helping families. So that's kind of what we kind of continue to do on that building block. But with me on top of all that, I'm an events coordinator with my partner, Charles Rosenet. We are the shaman and he's the showman. And we do a lot of events all over New England. Our upcoming one, which hopefully everybody that's in the area or fly out, got a lot of people flying out to be at this one. We got over 30 guests that are going to be there. It's going to be headlined by Butch Patrick, who played Eddie Munster on the Munsters, and the other headline act will be John Zaffis, and John will be there on Saturday only. On the weekend,
he's good friends with John Zaffis.
Yeah, Johnny, I love Johnny, and he's one of the best people you ever meet in the paranormal. Very open, very accommodating, and all that. So he'll be there Saturday. And also, we're doing a special event between Saturday and Sunday for our Paracon, where you're going to be able to investigate with John Zaffis at a haunted location.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's going to be a big one. So the name of the event is Paracon. It's in Connecticut, so it's two N's. So it's www.paracon2ns.org. You'll get to see all the guests that are coming. There's tons of them. You name it, a lot of people in the industry, and from anything metaphysical, the shamans, your priests, anything to do with the paranormal. And all of us, we're going to be bringing that education to you for some of the speakers, and just a good time, because Charles and I always make sure that everybody has a good time. That's the most important thing. And there's going to be vendors galore, anything you could think of. And it's going to be at an air-conditioned location in Waterbury, Connecticut, which is great. A lot of parking. It's at a high school. So you have that huge gymnasium. So there's probably going to be between 80 and 100 vendors along with the guests. So it's going to be pretty crazy. And we have the place where we're going to go investigate. We're kind of keeping it secret. So whoever purchases tickets, they will get an email for the location, because it gets to the point, we've done stuff in the past, that if we tell everybody where we're going, then you get these crowds of people outside and all that. And, it gets a little crazy, and you need a little bit more security at that location. So we're trying to keep it secret location, but it'll be announced to the people that are able to purchase the limited tickets. There's only, I think, 30 max available. And I think they're going for about $125. It'll include a dinner, a talk between John Zaffis and myself. And there'll also be two special guest psychic mediums. One will be paired off with John. One will be paired off with me. We'll split the groups up, and everybody will get to ghost hunt with John and myself, so they could see, where it all started, the old farts, showing you the old ropes and the old way to do things, and the new way to do things, and just to educate people. And, I can't ask for a better person to help educate people than John Zaffis.
Is this your first year? Is it yearly?
It's annual. This is the 5th year of the Connecticut Paracon, but it's the first year we added another element to it. It's a true crime conference. So we'll have true crime people there. Of course, myself, I'm a true crime guy too. I retired from the state of Florida. I was a crisis negotiator down there, criminal behaviorist, and I learned how to profile certain inmates to make sure if anything went down in the area. And with that, now in my later years here, I profile historic serial killers, and with that, gained a podcast that we do on Mondays with my friend Dr. Letriana Brown, Gwen Johns, and Blaine Rowan, and it's called Serial Killers, Supernatural, and Murders. So we pick, like, every week we'll pick one of the serial killers or a famous murder, add a supernatural element to it, and just the history. And then for me, I will basically deconstruct that killer's mindset, what they went through and why they might have been the way they are.
I love that.
An interesting element.
Yeah.
But also with it, we educate people, especially with kids growing up, and how their kids are reacting and what to help them with to hopefully avoid that type of upbringing, to get them to that point. Even if you live in that neighborhood and see this happening, to get people help the right way so we could avoid this stuff, and the red flags to look at when you're just out and about, some of the people you might meet in those red flags. We don't glorify the serial killers, but we educate people. It is, a little disheartening sometimes with some of the cases, but I think it's important aspect for people to see.
Well, we really like Lee Brown and her crew.
And that's a good show that you guys have.
She's been good to us.
I have a question really quick.
Yeah.
I am addicted to psychology of Gypsy Rose. What do you think about her? Real quick. Well, I guess it's a touchy topic, but do you know what I'm talking about with Gypsy Rose?
I know exactly what you're talking about. And my opinion on it, I wouldn't be able to give you 100% opinion because I know the case, but for me, I would need to see a little bit more data just to get into a little bit more. I'm not one of those just go online and see what people say. No, I dive deep in. That's like my moniker is going down the rabbit hole. So I got friends that tell me I'm the keeper of the rabbit hole because I won't stop until I have all the information. It's even with true crime, even with paranormal, if I'm doing an investigation, I got to know everything about a place, everything about people. I've had cases where this guy murdered his wife in front of his 6 children. And we did so much research that we knew every inmate that he roomed with at the time he was in prison.
Okay. Yeah.
So
good.
we had everything. So any influence at all. So, those are the things that if you know every little aspect, and you're trying to talk to spirit, it's better that way, because if I go into a home, I'm going to say, hey, Charlie, are you here? Instead of, hey, does anybody want to talk? I want to know who I could potentially throw names out of people that have lived there, history of some of those people, any traumas they had, or even back, when a lot of people died of the flu or yellow fever or anything like that. And you really have to look at that, because a lot of times what I do is, people know me for is I help the living and the dead. I speak to the dead, and the ones that are caught, I counsel them, just like I would counsel you guys if you had an issue to help you heal from it. So I talk to the dead to the point where they may not know they can move on. The trauma's holding them back, or something's holding them back, and we could sit and talk and give them the words to make the decision to leave if they want. But it's a double-edged sword, because so many people know that I do that. So a lot of these venues don't invite me to the venues because they think I'm going to make all their ghosts go away. I'm not going to have a venue to sell tickets to anymore, which is ridiculous, because my spirit guides tell the spirit if it wants to go or it needs help, just to call my name through an ITC device or just any type of device that might be able to help. Pendulums have called my name out, talking boards, whatever you're using at the time. And I know it's time to go work and help somebody. So help that spirit. They're just like us. They just don't have a meat suit anymore. So we want to help them. So.
Do you think that a lot of criminals or serial killers have some type of attachment on them?
I really do. I think it's one of the biggest reasons why I do both. I
Mhm.
think they've intertwined. I think that my path has led me as a young person with the paranormal side and going into the law enforcement side and learning the criminal mind and educating myself. How's it going? And with that, I could really see some of that sometimes. It really is when people described one person that escaped from Bundy described the look in his eye. She says, that's not the look that I've seen on TV, but when he was doing what he was doing, there was a different look.
Right.
That gloss over look, like something's taken you over.
Right.
So there's a lot of things behind that. Even, cases like Amityville where DeFeo killed his whole family.
Mhm.
Was he possessed by something? Was he possessed by an elemental of that land, which of course was Indian land there. There's no doubt about it in that area of Long Island. But, you second guess yourself sometimes. You can't prove it. I tell people paranormal, never 100% right or wrong about it.
Right.
Even the mind, we don't know why it does what it does. We only use maybe 15% of our brain capacity. So,
Really?
our
10 to 15%. That's it.
Yeah. So we don't know what the other part does. Is there parts where we stress so much that it opens up? Are there other people that have gifts that they can open up parts of the brain that most normal people don't? Is that why psychics are able to see? I don't know. They even say serial killers, a lot of them have frontal lobe damage, and that's why, that type of behavior happens. So there's a lot to the mind, but there's a lot to the supernatural side too. Even the case that the Warrens had with Arnie Johnson, was he possessed at the time that he murdered, his landlord? We don't know. For me, did he have an attachment at the time? Possibly. Was he possessed? I don't think so. I think it takes time to become possessed.
Okay.
Was there something that he might have called on when he helped out, his girlfriend, but then later his wife's brother, but we don't know because in demonology and all that, you could have an attachment and not know, and it waits for you to weaken and take you over. So it doesn't attack right away, and it could be watching for a while, waiting for you to weaken, waiting for that in, waiting for you to invite it in. So there's a lot to the movies. I tell people, don't invite it in, don't acknowledge it.
Yeah.
I've had demonic cases before. I don't talk about them. People ask me, "Oh, what happened?" I won't talk about it. Reason being is my clients, I have an obligation to them to not talk about those, because if I give power back to that, it could reactivate. And that's where a lot of people make the mistake. Everybody wants everything to be a demon and demonic, but they don't realize what they're playing with. When you've seen it and dealt with it for real, you don't say anything. It's just like military guys that have, older people that I've talked to that went to Normandy, went on the beach, they don't talk about it.
Mhm.
It takes a lot for them to talk about. They don't want to reactivate that memory or give it energy anymore. That's what it is. If you do give anything energy, it's the same thing when you're dealing with somebody, your energy vampires, I like to call them, or your narcissist people in real life.
Mhm.
When you give them the energy, you're making them worse to you. So a narcissist, if you just ignore them and not deal with it anymore, then yeah, you have
Yeah,
power.
gray rock them, right? Is that what's called gray rock, where you just ignore them or
Yeah.
something? And they'll
You
move
have
on.
power over it. Has a crisis negotiator and all that. It's even with the demonic sometimes with the priest. The priest during exorcism will do the prayers. And finally, when he finds that moment, he's going to ask 3 questions. He's going to ask, what is your name? How did you get in here? And when are you going to leave? That's it. There's no conversation going on. Those are the 3 only questions that a priest will ask during an exorcism. And as a negotiator, it's almost the same thing. When you're dealing with somebody, if they feel they have control, but once I know their name, I have control, even though they think they do. Because anytime you psychologically hear your name, you soften. So that gives me an in to take care of the situation, as opposed to, hey, you. But if I say, Bob, Lala, listen to what I'm telling you, don't you think you kind of perk up a little differently? But that's kind of the mindset that you have to have when you're dealing with crisis or you're dealing with the paranormal or you're dealing with a true crime situation.
You want to
Go
I have
ahead,
so
go,
many
go.
questions
Keep going,
for you.
keep going.
Keep going.
I knew this was going to be your deal.
Hopefully I'll have a good answer for you.
I guess my first series would be: do the color of eyes in these beings or entities mean a ranking? Like, I've dealt with experience with pure black eyes or pure white eyes,
Mhm.
and I'm always interested in what people have to say if it means anything.
For me, if I start looking at that, yeah, how you're going to deal with certain things. But for me, as a shaman, I don't do anything ritualistically to approach things. Demonic is demonic to me, no matter what their eyes look like. It's
Yeah.
an energy that you pick up. There's a difference in all that. And acknowledging their ranking and all that, again, is giving them power. I want to look at the demonic as more of try to make it feel insignificant, like I'm dealing with a narcissist, not to acknowledge it, anything like that, but still know that as a shaman, I don't have a playbook. When I go in, my spirit guides let me know what to say at what time to deal with whatever the situation is. I think, nowadays there are things where, there's the rite of exorcism and all that. That is been like that forever. It works. Okay. I've seen it work. But as a shaman, it's different. There's different things that you could do, but it's a matter of calling on spirit guides, calling on assistants, the archangels, the four directions, whatever you believe. But in my belief, there is a higher power, and I believe, God's out there. I believe God is the universe, and I
Yeah.
believe the light of the universe is Jesus and all that. Even though I'm a shaman, I'm still Christian based, and I think it's important that I have that faith, because without faith, I wouldn't be able to do the spiritual battle that we do. Has the Warren Society, has Wardruna, has the Holy Sword Apostolate, and that's anything that we do in investigative work and to help people.
That's a good way of putting it, because I have worried that when I think about my experiences, I wonder if I am giving it, if I'm going to draw it back again. So I try not to think too much about it.
I tell people, it's similar. You go through a situation, addictive situation. Let's say you were an alcoholic and you finally gave up alcohol. It's always going to be there.
Okay.
All right. But what you have to do in your mindset, take that alcoholism, you put it on a shelf, you let it collect dust. It's still there, but don't dust it off. That's all it is. You can acknowledge it. It's make you better on your journey. So we don't want to go back. We learn from what's back there. We're in the present. We don't know what's going to happen in the future either, but we prepare ourselves on a daily basis. So if you keep it simple like that, I think spiritually you're much brighter on that path. But it's easier said than done. I'm telling you words tonight, but as your listeners take it in, maybe hopefully somebody out there hears the message and that helps them, and along with you guys. So you never know what you're going to hear from somebody. And I hope that I'm giving information that helps people. And that's my journey. That's what I want to do with the paranormal and with true crime. So teaching, that's what I do.
That's good. It's needed. It really is. Did somebody have a question?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Joanne did. She wanted to know, what do you think about narcissists being possessed or mentally ill or whatever?
Really, narcissism is a sort of mental illness, I think. There's really with your upbringing sometimes, overparenting, people thinking that, everybody gets a trophy. And you think that everybody should cower to you because you're the best. You got all these trophies, but I think it's important for kids to grow up nowadays and learn how to lose, learn how to be a good teammate, learn to be, nicer to other people, no matter what they're going through. You got to be able to put yourself in other people's shoes. But yeah, narcissism, it could be a long-standing attachment. I don't think it's just something you can't get rid of. A lot of narcissists, they may change for a little while, but they always go back to what they are. It's sad, but there is some mental illness that just, will never go away. especially with that type of behavior. You hope it changes. You know, a lot of people go, I'll change them. No, the person has to change themselves. You can't change anybody. The only person you could change is yourself. And when you become positive and you become aware of who you are, then everything around you will attract to you that is needed for you on your journey. So.
I definitely agree with that. You
Mhm.
do attract. My dad would always say, "Be careful what you say and what you think, because it creates the world around you."
Yeah.
I used
Yeah,
to think, I was like, "Whatever, Dad," but it's true. It really is.
Yeah. Whatever you throw out to the universe will come back to you. It may not be right away, but could be
Yeah,
down the road, you know? So
that's true.
they're listening. The universe is listening to us.
Um, can you tell us about? You said you recently dealt with a gin.
Yes. Yeah, we want to hear that one.
Okay. So we had a case come to me. One of my friends who's a psychic medium said this person she read said he was having difficulties, and you know, her being a psychic medium, doesn't do home investigations. So she reached out to me, gave me his information, and then I went and chatted with my partner in crime, Stacia Wills, because usually it's herself and myself, and then usually around this area, Father Bob Bailey. We'll all call at the same time. And I think at the time, Father Bob was out chasing around the world with Annabelle on the tour with Nespar. So, and so Stacia and I would call the family and hear the story. So this gentleman was having a lot of problems when he was in his bedroom. He was having attacks by this spirit on a sexual nature and all
Mm-hmm.
that, to the point where it wasn't good. And then he said it got better, which, you know, I won't put out too much about that. But he was having difficulties with this. And I said, well, when did this start? Well, it started getting a little heavier like a year ago. What happened a year ago? He got divorced, and he and his kids. But
Mm-hmm.
as we questioned more about this, come to find out, you know, when his girlfriend would be over, this being would hiss at the girlfriend. So we're thinking it's some kind of female-oriented spirit. But then we found out that the gentleman served in Iraq near the Euphrates River.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, we think he might have picked up a jinn, and it just stayed dormant at that time. And when he was more open, going through the divorce, just like anything demonic would open up. But people got to understand, jinns aren't really the type of demons we would think. They're just like us from a different planes until we can't see them. They have to answer to a higher power, just like we do in our beliefs, and they have free will also. So, but this one was trying to, you know, disturb his new relationship, like it wanted to own him. So it's almost like a possession in a way. So when we recognize this, Stacia knowing a lot about the occult and how to deal with things, deities, things like that, there is a method of dealing with jinns is called the fifth pentacle of Mars through Solomon and all that. So when you have something going on in your home and you hang the picture of the fifth pentacle of Mars in all the rooms and all that, and you wait for a week, and a lot of times the jinn will trap into that fifth pentacle of Mars.
Wow.
Oh, we
So
got
all the stuff going on in this house was all based in the bedroom.
you.
Okay. So after a week, called back. The only one that fell off the wall was the fifth pentacle of Mars in the bedroom.
Oh my God.
So we had him wax it and bury it. And I'm to the point where we haven't heard anything else going on. But we know that if anything does kick up, I think it's going to be to the point where this gentleman may have to go back to Iraq if he can, to maybe for us to do a ceremony with him when he gets over there to release the gym back to where it was, because the guy still has dreams that he's there back in Iraq and he feels like he's at home, but I don't think it's him. I think it's the jinn.
Mhm.
And I think that's what the case we had. And it pretty incredible. And a lot of people watching right now is like, oh, that guy's full of crap. But
That
the
was
thing
true.
is, my thing is when I lecture, anytime I lecture, I tell people everything I'm about to tell you happened to me. You don't need to believe it, but this is my personal experience. And I tell people all the time, your paranormal experience is your own. You're on your own journey. What you experience, nobody has to believe. But when it happens to you and it helps you go forward and you get the message or you're able to help somebody, then that's the most important thing. Doesn't matter what everybody else thinks.
Oh, yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. What would be the difference from a succubus and then that type? So, are all jinns sexual, or just that one? And what's the difference from a succubus? And do
No,
those?
they're not all
wondering.
sexual in nature. You know, they're possessive, just like anybody. You know, you date that person that just doesn't leave you alone. You know, almost similar again without the meat suit. But succubus, incubus, those are lower level type of demons. They have nothing to do with jinns. Succubus and incubus are totally different. Those types of beings don't have the free will or have to answer to the higher power like in the lore that jinns have to. So it's totally different. So, but it's still, there could be a sexual nature of it, just like anything else. Let's just say it's you or I, and we meet somebody and we want them and all that. The jinn could do the same thing. So it's just in a different parallel than we are.
Are they doing it to get your energy? Is that what the whole thing is? Or
Well, I really wouldn't look at it trying to get their energy, but anything, you know, I really think a jinn's on the other plane. But yeah, can it suck your energy dry just like anything can? If I'm in a room with somebody that I just can't stand, then my energy is going to go low because it's just what I'm giving out. They're sucking it out of me. It's almost like human energy creates characters. You know, you think about it, look at the Harry Potter movies and those things that flew over and start sucking their energy out of them and all that. It's, you know, based off of what we run through as humans and what we run through in the spirit world. So created in movies, you know, everything we see, even, you know, Dracula, you know, don't invite him in. Once you invite him in, it's the same thing with the demonic. You know, you be careful what you wish for. There's so many people running around saying, I want to see a demon. Yeah, you're inviting it in. Guess what, buddy? Good luck with that.
yeah.
When you've seen it and dealt with it, you don't wish it upon anybody. I don't even wish it upon my worst enemy because it's not good and it stays with you the rest of your life. And it's not pretty. It's not. I've seen grown men 250, 260 get thrown in the air across a room, and nothing should be able to do that. You know, that's beyond supernatural there. And you know that's something very bad. So
Yeah. Go ahead, I'll shut up.
Yeah. So you were in police work for a long time.
yeah.
And I'm sure, given your other interests, you've run into a case where they overlapped.
Oh yeah.
So can you give us an example of you're doing police work and all of a sudden you realize, oh crap, this involves the supernatural or paranormal or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was just talking earlier about a case that I had, a murder case. So years ago at this home, there was a murder once we did the background. It was in the 1920s. And this gentleman, back in the day here in Connecticut, this place had all these tobacco fields. And this guy owned the tobacco field. So there'd be one house, and then the house next to it was where they would house the boarders that would work in the fields. So this gentleman had, I don't want to call him a gentleman, but I'm just going to say that because of the times back then. But he went off to business in New York. So his wife, 6 children are at home. He comes home and finds out his wife cheated on him with one of the boarders. He became enraged and bludgeoned her to death in front of the 6 children. Wow. So it got really crazy about that. And then we also picked up in that case that this guy might have killed several boarders and buried them in the backyard. We really wanted to go back out after to do some ground penetration and all that to see if we were able to pick up maybe if he did, to the point where this guy might have been a serial killer, you know, in that became an actual case to us in our mind's eye that, hey, this possibly could have happened, just the pattern of it. But when we did the investigation of the home, that's where things got really crazy. You know, the house was renovated at a time, but the guy that renovated it was friends with the people that lived in the house. And the people that lived in the house, let me tell you, there are 3 guys. They all lived in this house. They're all friends, work together. They look like motorcycle, big tattooed partier guys and all that. You didn't think they'd be afraid of anything. But they called us because every day the door in the basement would open and shut like really loudly and slam, to the point they had to put the couch up against, the door so they could get some sleep. They would have things try and choke them out in the middle of their sleep. They had shadow figures moving in the back. The shadow figure that was moving in the back was this back room that used to be the kitchen where this murder happened back in the 1920s. So they were getting, the orb activity down in the basement. They showed me videos. A lot of it was pretty profound. You know me, and I really have to look at, things and how they're going and see if it's actually what they think it was. And yeah, I'm telling you it was, because you could see an orb fly over to the oil tank, and then all of a sudden there's knocks on the oil tank right after that thing goes to it. And they would get problems with knocking 3 times for 3 minutes every 3 hours. So that 3 thing that we think about, the mocking of the Holy Trinity, or just that in general, the number 3. So we're taking this all in. So we enter the home, and of course you could pick up on, I think we picked up on about 8 different spirits in this home. Some of them were family oriented. One was the guy that used to live there, was a friend of theirs, and they've held on to a lot of his belongings, which I think would have attachment to that. But they were very good friends with the guy. So he's almost like hanging around to still party with him. There was one spirit I know down in the basement that kept avoiding us, and I'll get to that one. But then as we were going, pulled out one of the SLS cameras. I don't know if your audience knows SLS cameras based off the Kinect system. Bill Chappell kind of put it together, and you're going to see like little green stick figures. It's little lasers that go out and in theory picks up energy or a human form, just like when they played the video game, people are moving, they can move the game, and then player 2 pop up and there's no player 2. So they figured, okay, this might have some validity to the paranormal. But a lot of times it's not anything real. Maybe 5% of the time it's actually something that makes sense. So in this situation, I'm pointing it down where they claim the shadow figure is coming out. And all of a sudden, me being sensitive, and my partner I was working with, psychic medium, both of us, hair stood up. We knew something was about to happen. And sure enough, popping up on the SLS camera was 2 figures. And one figure looked like it was bludgeoning the other one to death, like it was reenacting the murder from the 1920s.
Wow.
So I started to talk to see if it was residual or if it was going to interact.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get it to stop. So a couple minutes in, one figure goes away, and I'm still trying to get it to stop. I know I could still feel the energy. Loud bangs on the wall as I'm trying to get it to stop, like it was angry at me for trying to get this motion to stop, like it's happening over and over and over again. Loud bangs as loud as gunshots on the wall. And finally, the knock stopped, and the one stick figure looked like it was crouched. And I said to the stick figure, if you are the woman and all that was killed by her husband, and you don't want to be here anymore, you have free will. I'm going to put my hand out. All you have to do is touch it. So the woman I was working with at times videotaping with her phone over, and you could see the SLS camera, and then my hand reaches out. You can see the stick figure touch my hand and go away. And then all the energy just stopped. So it was an incredible experience, but it didn't stop there. We went and did bless the house. And when I left there, I had this overwhelming feeling that it didn't work. Because sometimes people out there, just because you bless a home doesn't mean it's always going to work. So sometimes you got to go back and try something different. But before we went back, or realized we had to go back, the partner I was working with went off to Lake George with her husband for just a little getaway. Calls me at 5 in the morning and said, I felt the spirit of the house try and choke me in my sleep. So I knew, okay, our blessing didn't work. Now it's probably a little pissed off at us that we tried to get it to leave. But I'm thinking, okay, I haven't really went through the footage yet of when we went through the house. So I pulled out one of the recorders that we would leave playing. We leave recorders in every room as we're moving through. So in case something happens and we're not there, we could pick it up. So I had one down in the basement, and you could hear us upstairs. We're in the middle of doing the blessing, and down in the basement, it was like that summertime because you could hear it. This microphone picks up everything. You could hear the crickets outside. And it was near the airport, so you could hear periodic planes going over. But then all of a sudden, you heard the sinister, and then this pull drop, bing. Never even heard of it. It was so loud on there that we should have heard it upstairs. That's how loud it was coming through the recorder.
Wow.
So I'm thinking, well, that's the spirit that was hiding on us, but I don't think it was a spirit. I think it was something that was angry or something not that we wanted to play around with. So when we went back, we did a blessing of everybody that lived in the house. We did a 4 directions blessing. We threw the whole kitchen sink at a Tibetan healing bowl. You know, you name it, we did it. And everything ceased. So it was a couple months later, they call us, says, we've finally been able to sleep. Nothing's happened. Everything's good. We're like, okay. A few more months go by. It's like a year since we did the investigation. They decide they want to sell the house. So we're like, okay, then why are you calling us? Well, when we decided to sell the house, the knockings come back. So every 3 hours for 3 minutes, dink, 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 dink. And they sent us the recording of it going on. It was like, do you want us to come help you? And the guy's whole attitude kind of changed, you know, and then it kind of bothered me that he was more of a negative at that point where he's like, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to sell the house. I don't let somebody else worry about it. So that kind of hurt me a little bit. So if you don't want us to help, then why are you calling me and giving me this information? So a couple days go by and get another call, and the realtor that was trying to sell the house told them that she took a family in down into the basement. While they were down there, they heard a voice say, get the F out.
Ooh.
Get the F out again. They went running up the stairs, and the voice said, you're going to fall. And the guy that they were showing fell up the stairs like it knew he was going to fall.
Oh my God.
So I knew that's trouble right there. So they call us again, you know, tell us. And I'm like, well, why are you calling if you don't want us to help? And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. But I guess I got to give the realtor a lot of credit. She went back, and the next family she showed, I guess, decided to buy it. Nothing happened. I don't know. Maybe the spirits are like, I don't like this family, so I'm just going to tell them to get the F out. But yeah, so supposedly they sold the house, but him being so negative, he moved to Florida before the house really went all the way through. And from what I found out was when they did the inspection, they found $70,000 to $75,000 worth of termite damage to the house.
Ooh.
It was almost like the spirits are still screwing with him and mad at him for selling the house or anything that was going on or how he was treating. And you never know. Some physical stuff like that happens. Spiritual, you never know. And that's just the quick part of the story. But that whole thing is probably going to end up being a book I'm going to be working on. And that whole
Sounds like you got more than enough material for a book.
Yeah, but that one, that's nothing. That's the abridged edition of the story. So there's so much more that goes into it. You know, I was attacked in my sleep also from the spirit of the house. And that was the weirdest part was I'm in my dream state and all that. That's where I kind of astral project and a lot of things happen. And this woman came to me and she started yelling and showing her hand. And then she went to choke me. But the weird part was what she was dressed in. I don't know how far back you guys go, but you remember the old Burger King outfits, the polyester had the yellow, the brown, and the orange?
Yep.
He was wearing that. And I'm thinking, what does this symbolize? I just still to this day, I don't know. Why did she have that on? Why did it come to me that way? So it was just so strange. But yeah, that whole case, unbelievable. So, but I've had many, but that one just, every inch of it was something different. So.
Have you, in any of your investigations, taken out what you think was a haunted object and given it to John Zaffis or something like that?
No, you know, we've contacted John on a few things for questions, and you know, there was a point where there was a haunted mirror that a place was thinking of getting rid of, and they never got back to us. So a lot of the paranormal people say, "Oh, I got a problem," but they never call you back.
Wow.
You know, but they had this haunted mirror. But I do have some really good friends that I really go to in this situation. You know, I know John collects all the stuff too, but a lot of times my really good friends, Danny and Lauren Perez, the Radicals, they have their own museum at their house, and they have this whole warehouse outside the house where they keep objects, and they have a lot of different things, but they don't call them haunted objects or possessed objects. They're troublesome objects and all that. So we can't really prove if it's possessed or, whatever. But I really think objects have energy around them, and that energy could be called on. It's the same thing where we're talking about the Annabelle doll. There's energy around Annabelle, and if you mock it, that energy works through Annabelle. Annabelle's the conduit. The energy around it could be that demonic or anything like that. Is that energy in Annabelle? No, I just think she's a conduit, and that's what it is. So it's still scary as hell anyways, either way you want to look at it.
I don't know about her, but the toughest place that I have personally been in is Zach Bagans' museum.
Yeah.
He's got that place loaded with stuff. She had to leave in the middle. She couldn't stay in there.
Yeah. You a lot of times is like we go in there knowing that there's haunted objects in there, and our mindset is it's just like a curse. If I cursed you, right? You stub your toe, all of a sudden you're going to think, oh my God, the curse has taken hold. And remember we talked about we don't know what most of our brain does? Your mind goes, oh my God, it's happened. And every little thing that happens, and all you could do is think about it. It's the power of suggestion.
Right.
I've never been to Zach Bagans' museum, but when you create that aura about it and you go in thinking, okay, this is haunted and this and that, and you think about it so much, then yeah, it's going to scare you more and make you feel even to the point where you could pass out, that you scare yourself so much with the lore and the history of what's going on in there. Are there haunted objects in there? Potentially. But who am I to say? I don't know for 100% if I'm right or wrong about it. But I do think that if you think about something enough on that part of it, then yeah, you could haunt yourself by thinking about it too much. So that's what could happen to you. And, Zach Bagans, I know he's done a lot in the paranormal. A lot of people don't agree with him or that aspect of it, but he's still a showman.
Well, he's a showman, but I don't like the way he challenges entities. Very negative.
I think in the early days, yes. I don't think he's as bad now, but he's just like any of us that get into the paranormal. They see something, they think that's the right thing to do, and then they find out the hard way, and that's what we have to learn. All of us have to learn. We're all on our own journey. You could say that's the wrong thing to do. It might be the right thing for him at that moment. But he has to learn for himself. Doesn't matter what anybody else says. He's going to find out. I
mean, he went off to a house in Indiana.
Yeah.
Acted up and left him nearly blind.
Yeah. So that's the F around and find out,
Oh, yeah.
Too many people nowadays, again, you call on it, it'll come.
Yeah.
You call on it, it will come. And I guarantee it'll come. And I know after that, you'll probably be calling myself, the Warren Society, Wardruna, and the Holy Sword Apostolate to come and help you. So, because with that group, there's 40 years for me, Joe Frankie, 40 years, Father Bob, just all those people. It's at least at the minimum 20 years involved with experiences. Are we perfect at it? No. But we've had enough experience over the years to be able to troubleshoot it a little differently than most. So.
That's good. And I'm glad you're doing that, because when I needed help, even until recently, it was so hard to get somebody one person helped, but nobody would really help, but even to get them to listen to what I was saying. And I'm thinking, this thing I'm saying are pretty intense, and I downplay everything. So what I'm saying is intense. Like, why isn't anybody giving a shit? And I'm thinking, well, how do other people get help? So it's good when we have other people come on the show like you, because if someone that is going through something and keeps getting rejected can hear you and contact you and find. So that's important. It really is, because it's terrifying to not only go through the paranormal things, but to not have anybody to care or help.
Can I tell you one thing from this experience?
Mm-hmm.
I could hurt a lot of people's TV careers who claim to be doing this stuff and wouldn't even talk to her And in some cases, they were ordained priests and ministers and wouldn't pray for her.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just because I have, like, I'd wake up with bruises in the shape of bite marks. I mean, I had proof and video and everything.
Yeah.
So, sorry, it's my son. So anyway, my question is, with shadow people, what do you think they are exactly?
For me, it's hard to explain whether they're of an evil nature, of a good nature. I look at it this way. The way I like to explain it, again, nobody's going to be 100% right or wrong about a shadow figure. It's still something menacing, but it's also to the fact where I look at it this way. The past, the present, and the future are all in the same timeline. We're like this, right? It's all parallel. Einstein said light bends. Light is time. Okay? So a lot of times where the past could bend into the present, creating that light to the shadow figure of the past that you're seeing before it actually manifests in front of you. It could be the precursor of what you're seeing, or it could be, family members watching over you. You don't really know. It's all in how you take it. But a lot of times you see stuff like that, fear kicks in. And guess what happens when fear kicks in? It's just like I told you before, it's that suggestion. Your mind gets away from you. So my job doing home cases is to take away your fear, to give you the education to take your power back of your home, and to take back the power of your soul and how you feel for things that are around the house. So I can't be at somebody's house all the time, but I could teach people how to do what I do and to work at it and stay in touch with them and work on it, where they have that faith that protects them and how to do things and take that back.
Yeah.
I really think the mind will get away from you sometimes. And when that happens and you open your mind to that, you're inviting things in. It just makes it worse. So you got to take back that control and of your home and anything going around it, and tell you're not allowed here. You're putting up your boundaries. And once those boundaries are put up and you can protect your home and your family, that's empowering, and that's what you need. You can't let life gets to everybody. But don't let life get to the point where you're allowing in things that shouldn't be there anyways. So, and that's what it is. A lot of hauntings are because of trauma.
Yeah.
A lot of times where demonic cases we've had or stemmed off of somebody that was a drug abuser, a hoarder, or anything they brought on, or they were never done anything healthy healing of a lost loved one, that trauma, and it just invites in. You really look at a lot of these cases, there's always something of traumatic connection that creates that stuff sometimes. You're inviting it in with that negativity. It's waiting for you to be like that. So at any time.
Excuse me one moment. My son keeps calling. I want to make sure my baby's okay. I'll be right back. But you are 100% correct. Well, I lost my parents and boyfriend, and that's when it all started. So you're right. I'll be right back. I'm sorry.
So we got to know each other for a couple of years, and then we decided to come together.
Yeah.
We moved in here together. It was our first place living together, and we started getting the thumps and the raps and the objects moving and all this other stuff. So I go, well, let me put up some cameras and see if I can catch any of this stuff happening on video. So I've got one. It wasn't an expensive one, but I got one, put it in the front hall, put it at the front door, and left. It was in night mode. Yeah. So we went to sleep, all three of us, and 3-something in the morning, you hear something go by and click. The light switch comes on. Something walks past the camera, and we hear electronic voice phenomenon, completely voiced, not a hiss, perfectly voiced, the voice of her deceased boyfriend saying hello to their son. He said, "Hello, Xander." And it's clear as day. And they both identified it as his voice. People who don't know this stuff happens, they're living in a dream world.
Yeah. Well, you got to look at it this way. I tell people all the time, good or bad, your loved ones, whether something happens, but they're always around you. Love never dies. They're always around you in spirit. My mom's with me all the time. She's one of my spirit guides now.
When my mom comes
Yeah.
around, I can smell her perfume.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
get a ringing in my ear, and then I smell her perfume.
Yeah.
I know she's here.
They're always around, and it's great because you know, I know I always say this, the meat suit's gone, but they're there forever. They're always there to guide you. Their memory of them, it's almost like they seem to come to you like when you were little. Mom, I fell down, and she comes to help you. It's still the same thing. When you're going through that anxiety, that you know that your loved ones are there, they're supporting you. I think that's powerful if you really look at it that way instead of fearing. Why is this happening? You know, I'm going through a lot of pain right now. Why am I getting hauntings? It may not be, might just be your family members trying to encourage you. It's not the big bad demon or anything like that. It's just family trying to console you on from the other side. Hey, buddy, get up off the bed. You know, that's what it is sometimes. So, yeah.
Okay.
Everything's good.
Yeah, his phone died, so he had two of his friends call me back to back. I'm like, oh my god, what is wrong?
Yeah.
Who do I have to hurt? Anyway, so he's a teenager. So, my question: I have a conspiracy. Everybody knows, they've heard it. About Rh negative bloodlines. I'm O negative.
Yep.
And a lot of things happen to other Rh negatives. Do you think? Have you heard like? I know. Okay. Do generational curses happen to these? Yeah. Yeah. Do you know? Or do you have a lot of people come to you that are of the Rh negative bloodline?
Well, that's not my expertise. My partner Stacia would probably have an expertise in that, because the main thing with our healing society, Wardruna, it is to break generational curses.
Okay.
So we deal with a lot of that. You know, you think about it. If somebody does something really crazy in your family and it's passed on generation to generation, it's horrible sometimes. The abuser abuses, and then they grow up and abuse, and it just keeps going on until somebody breaks the chains of it. You know, but a lot of times once stuff starts like that, it could go on. Even if I heal somebody from it, it could still permeate 5 to 7 generations after. But you are healing it at that moment, knowing that it's going to stop at that time, or hopefully sooner. But those are the things that go on. If it has anything to do with bloodline, possibility. Some are more susceptible genetically. When you really look at you know, the science behind it, yeah, they've done stuff where, you know, they send mice, right? The epigenetics, the learned behaviors and all that, where they'll send the parents through the maze, and it takes them a while, and the parents learn how to find the cheese. But then when they have children, the children find the cheese so much faster than the parents because it's learned from that, and it's passed from generation to generation. So if one person's doing one thing, their people are going to learn, and it's going to keep going. Even if you're an adopted kid, they've seen people that were adopted become just like the parents that they were born from. But even though they're adopted and grew up in a different family, that the epigenetics is there. The bloodline does create some of the things, the similarities. So there's been a lot of scientific study behind it. I don't know the RH side of it. I know I've heard of it. That's something I'd have to look into. And anybody watching right now, you asked the question, so everybody should go down the rabbit hole and study it up, and then they'll have an answer. Maybe give their own opinion about it. Again, I love hearing everybody's different opinions or educated opinions about things, because I think it's important to move what we're doing now, paranormal or true crime, move it forward with people that educate themselves and educate others with the proper way, instead of just pointing the finger and saying I'm right, you're wrong. Right. I want to know why. I want to know why I'm wrong. You know.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm also the person, again, as the paranormal. I help the living and the dead. That's it. I don't complicate it. I do have a lot of people when I'm at events come in, what do you think of this picture? What do you think of that? What do you think of this? I will tell you every time, I'm never rude about it. It's like, if that makes you feel good and that helps you in the paranormal, great. But for me, the question I'm going to ask, that is great footage. But with that footage, what did you do for your client and what did you do for spirit?
Right.
That's when I'm looking for the answer. That's when I'm going to say, okay, you did a great job. You helped somebody. So if you're in this business, I know you could run out, put your videos up on YouTube, get a bazillion likes and all that other stuff. But you're talking about us as human beings, humanity, our fear to help in those spirits that are stuck and all that. They may be putting themselves on your video to tell their story. And all you wanted to do is just take their video and throw it up on YouTube.
Right.
Now you never heard their story. Now they're even more pissed. So, that can happen.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, please come back again. I mean, this is very nice. I have a million other questions. But
Well, write them all down, and when we come on again, we'll have another round table of, because the next time I want to hear more about you guys. I know.
Oh, yeah, sure.
there's a ton.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about you guys because it's very interesting backgrounds for both of you. So, and I appreciate you so much for having me on too. So, yeah.
Thank you. This was nice. The last question I just want to ask really quick is, people that die from trauma or quickly or whatever, do they always have a hard time passing over, or sometimes they are lucky and can move on easily? How does that work?
It's with anything. Not everybody's the same. They could move on right away. They could be stuck here, unfinished business, or the trauma, they just don't know they died. There's been times where I had a spirit convinced they were still alive. So I had to literally found their death certificate and show it to the air. Here's your death certificate, to make them make the decision to leave. That's what it takes sometimes. It's not getting them upset or anything like that, but hearing their story, knowing how they possibly passed away by doing your due diligence and all that. And again, I do a lot of home cases. I don't go to a lot of places unless it's a fundraiser or I'm there to teach somebody. I'm not one of those, I hate to call it pay to plays. People pay, they go do their run around, whatever. That's great to learn. But home cases, it's a different story. I don't suggest people doing home cases unless they're well versed and do their due diligence and know that when they do investigate, it's the last resort. It shouldn't be something you do right away. You got to get all your information first. So.
Absolutely.
What do you want to tell our audience, promote or whatever, about what's coming up?
Lots of stuff coming up, but the most important thing, again, www.paracon.org. That is the fifth annual Connecticut Paracon and True Crime Conference. Going to be July. I think it's the 12th or the 13th, that weekend. A lot of big names coming, of course, Johnny Zaffis, Butch Patrick. We got everybody, Jimmy Pettinino, Joe Frankie, Lee Triana Brown. There's a lot of them, Kenneth Drake. So just go to the website. There's over 30 special guests that are going to be there from all over the country. Of course, my one of my counterparts, Stacia Wills, will be there. Joe Frankie, of course. Father Ken Torres will also be there, part of the Council of Five of the Three Pillars, Warren Society, Wardruna, and the Holy Sword Apostolate. So that'll be fun. I'll have my true crime buddies there, Dr. Lee Triana Brown, Blaine Rowan, Gwen Johns. So that's going to be exciting. So we have all those elements going to be going on. So there's something for everybody. It's the big one coming up. I do have August, I have the Connecticut Witch Festival, which is in honor of the people that were convicted of witchcraft in Connecticut, which is 45 years before Salem. So we are honoring them with a festival, our second annual one. And then, of course, every year in November, we do the Salem Paracon and Horror Fest up in Salem, Massachusetts. So that's another big one. And then we sprinkle in our psychic fairs, and then we let people go on ghost adventures with us, with my partner Charles and I, and some special guests that we sometimes come with us on these events. So it's quite an ordeal. And then in between, I work a 40-hour-a-week job, and I also traveling all over the country, talking and going to these events. And yeah, it's a whirlwind. I'm glad my kids are all grown and out of the house now, so that way I could do more of this stuff. So it's fun. I like teaching. I like being on shows like this and learning about you guys, and just hopefully letting your viewers maybe learn something from me that might help them on their journey. So it's fun. I enjoy it.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Be sure to go visit the places Thomas told us about. So
We'll post the
we'll
website.
put that stuff up in the show notes so people can find it easily.
Yeah.
Thank you all for
Appreciate
being here. We'll be back next Tuesday with a new guest. And in the meantime, have a good weekend.
Thank you.